Hi, this is Dr. Swapna and I welcome you to your Learn Lab. If you are an IGNOU student looking for help in your studies, then you have reached the right place. Here, we have lecture videos on different core and elective subjects of important IGNOU courses. We aim to help you ace your exams. So hit subscribe to our channel and as you watch, make sure to like and share too. Come and join me on this beautiful learning journey. In this video, we are going to study about qualitative research method, which is unit 5 of block 2. And block 2 is all about quantitative and qualitative research methods. What are we going to study? We'll study introduction to qualitative research. We'll see different types of qualitative research. We'll also study the difference between quantitative and qualitative research. This we have also studied in one of our previous videos, but we'll take a look at it again here. Then we have ethics in qualitative research. And finally, we have mixed approach research method. And at the end, we'll also look at the different previous year questions that have come from this topic. Let's start with our first topic, which is what is qualitative research? Qualitative research is a type of research that focuses on gaining in-depth understanding of social phenomena, human experiences, and behaviors through non-numerical data. Now, this is the highlight. We learned about quantitative research, right? And quantitative research is all about numbers or numerical data. Here, in qualitative research, what we'll focus on is on gaining in-depth or deep understanding of different social phenomena, human experiences, and behaviors. And all of these data are generally textual and non-numerical, which means no numbers are involved here. It explores the why and how behind actions and opinions rather than simply measuring how much or how many. Now, this is quantitative, we know, right? In quantitative, we measure the variables, how much or how many. Here in qualitative research, we are exploring the why and how behind different actions and opinions. This approach uses methods like interviews, focus groups, and observations to gather rich, descriptive data that can reveal insights into attitudes, beliefs, and motivations. Going forward, we'll look at history and philosophy of qualitative research. The earliest foundations of qualitative research can be traced to the early ethnographers. These are the first people who tried to study different customs and cultures and races across the world. Now, people who study these cultures and customs are called ethnographers. And the oldest ethnographers were mostly either explorers or missionaries or even administrators, and they wanted to study the customs and behaviors of the primitive societies or the age old societies that existed at their time. Okay, and their work laid the groundwork for the later qualitative methods. So let's look at the timeline. First, we have early ethnographic studies. Western researchers in the 17th century began observing and documenting the customs and behaviors of the primitive societies, often with the goal of understanding cultural differences. Imagine we are talking about 17th century, people in the 17th century who were trying to observe and document the customs and behavior of primitive societies. I mean the societies which were primitive for them. All right. So they laid the groundwork for all the later qualitative techniques that arose. Then formalization in the 20th century. After 17th century, we are coming to the 20th century. We had anthropologists like Malinowski and Mead, along with sociologists like Park and Burgess, and they started to develop more focused qualitative research methods in the earlier 20th century. So after these people, we have our anthropologists like Malinowski and Mead and sociologists like Park and Burgess who started to develop more focused qualitative research methods. And all this happened in the early 20th century. In the mid 20th century, around 1960s, saw the surge in qualitative research influenced by symbolic interactionism, which was developed by Becker et al. In 1961, and development of grounded theory by Glaser and Strauss in 1967. All right, now this was somewhere around 1960s. So here what was happening? The emergence of symbolic interactionism and grounded theory, they significantly shaped this field of qualitative research. Then the paradigm started to shift, which is in around 2005, Denzin and Lincoln identified moments in qualitative research highlighting the influence of positivism, post-positivism, and constructivism. All right. So, after Denzin and Lincoln in 2005 identified the moments where there was a more influence of positivism, post-positivism, and constructivism. Now, in case you don't remember what these are, positivism asserts that the social reality can be understood through scientific observation and discovery of natural laws, similar to physical science, which means anything that can be observed or measured through mathematical proofs or maybe statistical proofs, those were considered as the sources of knowledge. So they say knowledge is derived from sensory experience and it should be verifiable through empirical testing. All right. So it emphasized on use of mathematical and statistical techniques to prove whatever was being observed. This was positivism. Then after positivism came the post-positivism. So they have the core idea that while reality exists, it can only be known imperfectly. Okay, nothing, we cannot perfectly know anything because while there is some degree of subjectivity, it acknowledges that the researcher bias can influence observation and conclusions, right? So while you can try to prove something mathematically or statistically, there is a chance of researcher bias at some point. This is post-positivism. So positivism was all about observing and proving things. Post-positivism, we realize that okay, we can observe and prove things, but there is also a scope of researcher bias which can cause a potential error, right? Then finally came constructivism, where the core idea is that a person's reality is actively constructed through their cognitive processes and social interactions. Okay, so a person can have multiple realities which are co-constructed due to their experiences and their interactions. All right, so now these generally all of these, including constructivism, they used qualitative approaches and inductive reasoning, focusing on understanding individual perspectives and experiences. So after that, then we had expanding methodologies. The methodologies that were being used expanded. Qualitative research has continued to diversify with approaches like narrative inquiry, case study, and participatory action research gaining prominence. This was all about history and philosophy of qualitative research. Now we go on to types of qualitative research. The first type of qualitative research that we have is case study. Now, the case study method is an in-depth research technique that involves a detailed examination of a single subject, such as an individual or a group or an organization or an event or a community. And what is it for? To explore and understand complex issues within their real life context. All right. So, this is a approach that focuses on in-depth investigation of a specific case or cases within their real world context. And these cases could be anything, could be a single object, as I said, a single individual or a group or an organization, an event or a community. All right. Now it aims to understand complex phenomena in detail. It uses qualitative data collection methods like interviews, observations, and document analysis to gain rich, nuanced understanding of the subject matter. Next, we have ethnography after case study. So, in ethnography, uh, it is a research method focused on in-depth study of a culture or community by observing and interacting with people in their natural settings. So, this is a qualitative research in an immersive approach that studies a social group or any culture by observing and interacting with the participants in their natural settings to understand their behaviors, beliefs, and social dynamics. It aims to understand, as I said, what? Social behaviors, beliefs, and practices from the participant's perspective. Now, this involves immersing the researcher. I mean, the researcher immerses himself or herself in the group's environment, observing their interactions and gathering details accounts of their experiences. So, for example, I want to study a particular tribal group of Andaman. What are their cultures and what are their beliefs, or how are their customs? So, what would I do? I would go, stay there, become a part of them, and participate with their customs and see or study firsthand. Immersive. I'm a part of them now and observing them actively and gathering data. That is ethnography. Next, we have historical methods. So, as the name suggests, we are going to study into the history of a particular group. So, this is a qualitative research method involving a systematic study of the past to understand events, experiences, and perspectives. It uses primary and secondary sources to analyze and interpret historical data. Okay, so the primary source would be what? First hand sources, right? And secondary sources would be the, so someone who has already studied about it or someone heard about it, that would become the second hand source or the secondary source. People who have not directly been a part of it but have information about it. And then qualitative historical analysis focuses on interpreting historical events rather than just collecting numerical data. So we are not collecting numerical data here. We are trying to understand what happened in the past. Okay, and for that we are collecting data firsthand and also from secondary sources. So that was historical methods. After historical methods, we have grounded theory. Now, grounded theory means we are creating a theory from scratch. There is, we don't have a hypothesis. We don't have, we don't have any material to prove or means accept or reject, nothing. We are going to gather the data, and from the data, we are going to build a theory from the ground up. Okay, so this is a qualitative research approach where theories are developed directly from the data rather than being based on pre-existing theories. Okay, there is nothing. We are building everything up from the scratch, from the ground. That's why grounded theory. It's a systematic method for building theory through the collection and analysis of qualitative data, often involving an iterative process of data collection and analysis. Now, instead of starting with a hypothesis, grounded theory aims to discover patterns, concepts, and relationships within the data that form the basis for new theories. All right. So, we are not using any existing theory or hypothesis. We are going to collect fresh data and then we are going to study those and find relationships within the data, and based on that relationship we are going to create new theories. That is grounded theory. The characteristics of grounded theory. The first we have is fit. So grounded theory helps in analyzing whether the theory corresponds to real existing community or not. We have collected data, we have made a theory. Now grounded theory will tell whether it fits the community or not. The community which was under study, from which the data was collected, about which the theory has been proposed. Alright. Secondly, it's understandable. The theory generated by grounding is clear and understandable. Grounding means we don't have any existing data. We are creating everything from scratch. Alright. So such a theory is generally clear and understandable. It has generatability, which means the theory provides much information and scope for further analysis or generating more theories. This means the grounded theory that we have, it is from fresh data. So it gives you a scope for generating more theories from it. It can become a base material for further studies and further theories. Finally, we have control. The theory generated is valid and it has been analyzed under controlled conditions. Okay, so these are the 4 characteristics of grounded theory. Next, we have functions of grounded theory. What do grounded theory help us in? It helps in identifying anchors or codes that allow the key points of the data to be gathered, which means it gives you the code words or the anchors, which means on what characteristic or what feature you should surround your study on. Okay, what are those key things that you should study when you want to have a theory on a particular event or a particular community? All right, it helps in making implicit belief systems explicit with the help of researchers' questions and analysis. Implicit means something which is not, obvious. Explicit is something which is obvious, which you can easily arrive at. Okay, so it helps in making something which is not easily observable or obvious to something that is explicit with the help of researchers' questions and analysis. It consists of a set of steps whose careful execution is thought to guarantee a good theory as the outcome. So, when you are using the approach of grounded theory, you are guaranteed to have a good theory as an outcome. The data collection and analysis continue throughout the study. So here, it's not that you first do the data collection, and then you analyze it and then you form a theory. No, the data collection and analysis continue throughout the study. All right. So these are the functions of grounded theory. After grounded theory, we have the next type of qualitative research, which is phenomenology. Now, this is a qualitative research method focused on understanding the lived experiences of individuals and the meanings they attribute to those experiences. This means you will be performing a study on something a person has experienced firsthand, and you will be studying how that person sees that experience or understands that experience. You are not going to have your own version of it or anybody else's version of it. You will be directly getting in touch with the person who experienced the event or the phenomena, and they're finding out the data or the meanings they attribute or they give to those experiences. It aims to describe the essence of a phenomenon as it is perceived by those who have experienced it, rather than imposing preconceived notions or interpretations. All right. So, as I said, you are not going to have anyone else's version of the whole thing. You will be having the version of the person who has experienced it firsthand. This approach is rooted in the philosophical movement of phenomenology, which emphasizes the direct examination of phenomena as they appear to consciousness. All right. So this is the last type of qualitative research that we have to study, that is phenomenology. After studying the different types of qualitative research, now let's look at different characteristics of the qualitative research. The first characteristic is that the data that is collected leads to formation of a theory. The data is collected by going to the participants, interacting with them, and interviewing them at in-depth level. The data therefore is rich in information and becomes a basis for the formation of theories. The design of the research is not predetermined, it's not pre-planned or predefined prior to the start of the research. The findings give way to observe the existing phenomena, bring out relevant changes in existing theories, or totally reframe a new theory. All right. So the first characteristic is that the data leads to formation of a theory. The second characteristic we have is that qualitative research is a context-bound research. It involves specific studies with reference to context, culture, or society. We are not going to digress from the topic. We are not going to beat around the bush or find something new to study or see something in the middle and go after that. We have a specific context and all the study revolves around this one context. Therefore, the research is more context sensitive. Then we have involvement or immersion of researchers. Any person who is involved in qualitative research will be highly involved in the study or immersed in the study. The qualitative research leads to complete involvement of the researcher in the natural settings. They need to engage actively in the activities to understand the phenomena or process. Even before the process of data collection, they need to become familiar with the culture, society, situation which they are going to study. So they will have all kinds of information on whatever they are going to study before they actually even start the research. All right. Next we have researcher-research relationship. Here, in case of qualitative research, the researcher is not judgmental and should not have any pre-assumptions since they need to collect the original responses from the participants. So they should not have any bias. See here, the researcher-research relationship is free from biases. The person will not have any pre-existing ideas or notion about the study. So they will be approaching the whole thing with a fresh mind. The researcher indulges completely to the research settings to gain more natural and honest responses from the participants. The next characteristic of qualitative research is that it provides a thick description. Now, this thick description includes information about facts and both theoretical and analytical description of the event under study. The qualitative research involves thick description, which includes the clear description of the culture, context, process, and steps of research, which helps in the construction of reality and analysis of research. Okay, so all these would help in the construction of the theory. So this is important that we obtain a very thick description from the qualitative research, which includes the complete theoretical and analytical description of the culture, context, process, and steps of research. Then we have data collection and data analysis occurs simultaneously. In qualitative research, the researcher collects data through various ways like observation and interview. And while they are collecting the data, they keep on analyzing and interpreting the data simultaneously. All right. Next, we have key elements of qualitative research. The first key element of qualitative research is the research design. We have studied in detail about the research designs in one of our previous videos. In case you haven't watched it, I'll add link in the description of the playlist. You can just go and watch it. So, the research design is naturalistic. This means it involves studying of different phenomena in their natural setting or the natural world. The conditions are not controlled. The study is not controlled. So the findings are very natural and are, it's not pre-planned or something that is cooked up. Okay. Secondly, it's emergent of new paths. This means the researcher does not have to pre-plan anything. Like they do not have to follow any fixed plan or schedule or methodology. They can be flexible as and when they, collect the data. If they feel they need to have a new route or a new way to continue with the study, they can adapt to the changes as it is necessary. Okay, so they have full flexibility to choose the path that comes opens in front of them as and when they continue with the study. All right, finally it is purposeful, which means the research design has a clear objective or purpose or aim. Okay, so whatever the topic that is selected for the study, there would be a definite purpose on why the study is being conducted. If it is going to help the society, or if it is going to enhance the understanding of a phenomenon, there will always be a clear purpose for the research design. All right. Now, next we have data collection. Data collection is the second key element of qualitative research. So the data that is collected is rich and non-numerical. All right. The data that we are going to use is textual data. And how are we going to collect this rich non-numerical data? The common methods that we use are interviews or observations or case studies or ethnography or even focus groups. All right. Secondly, there would be personal experience and engagement involved. Now, since the researcher here is needed to have or needed to be in direct contact with the people or the situation or the phenomenon or the culture that the person is studying in, the person would be fully engaged with them. The person will become a part of the whole group or the phenomena that is being studied, and whatever the person experiences personally, this will have a significant impact on the outcome of the research. All right. So when you are going to study the tribal groups, whatever you are experiencing through your engagement with the tribes will be a major part, will make up a major part of the outcome or the result of your study. Then there has to be an empathic neutrality while collecting the data. Okay. So the person who's collecting the data should not be judgmental and should not be biased. They should understand that the other person is also a human being and they need to be respective of that, sensitive about the whole culture or the custom or the person, and should be very open, mindful and responsive while collecting the data. All right. Finally, the data collection involves dynamic systems. Okay. So dynamic means something that keeps changing, something that's not fixed or stable. So we said that the research design is also pretty flexible. Similarly, data collection is also a dynamic system or something that can be adapted or that can be changed as and when required while continuing with the study. All right, so you don't need to have a fixed system of data collection. You can, anytime according to the requirement or the need of the study, you can change it. All right. Finally, we have data analysis. This is the third element of qualitative research. Now, under data analysis, the first key point that we have is the uniqueness. So uniqueness means each case that is selected as is treated as something that is special and unique. Okay, and the data analysis is done in such a way that that involves all the details of the cases and all the you know uh, you won't use any predetermined information or any something that you already know or something you have heard from somewhere. No, you are treating each of the data as a special or unique case and analyzing it in that way only. Okay, there would be inductive analysis. Inductive analysis involves inductive reasoning. So here the data is analyzed to find out the important patterns or themes or relationship between variables which which you will be able to find out by exploring the data and then confirming the findings or proving your findings. So here you have to conduct an in-depth study or in-depth analysis of the data that is being collected, and then based on that you will be coming to coming to conclude on the relationship between variables or about the details of the phenomena that is under study. All right, the data analysis will be using a holistic perspective, which means an all-round perspective. So the phenomena under study is understood as a complex system and how the processes involved in the phenomena are interdependent. You are not studying the phenomena as an isolated system, but a system that exists along with other interdependent systems also. Okay. Finally, the data analysis is context sensitive, which means we said that the qualitative research is context sensitive study. There would be a specific context on which the study is being conducted. Similarly, the data analysis also very sensitive to the context. Okay. Why? Because whatever result is obtained from the sample, it will be generalized to the population also. So because of that reason, it has to be ensured that the data analysis is conducted in a very context sensitive manner. All right. So these were the three key elements of qualitative research. Next, we have a comparison of quantitative and qualitative research. So yeah, this comparison is given in your study material, so you can refer it there also. So the first criteria based on which we are differentiating qualitative and quantitative research is general framework of research. Now, qualitative research seeks to explore phenomena using some structured methods such as in-depth interviews, experiences, and participant observation, while quantitative research seeks to confirm hypotheses related to phenomena using highly structured methods such as questionnaires, surveys, and structured observation. All right. Secondly, about objectives. Qualitative research aims to describe variation, explain relationships, describe behavior, experiences, and norms of individuals and groups. Okay. While in quantitative research, it aims to quantify variation and predict causal relationship. So here it's basically detailed description. Here it's quantification, which means here data is textual and here we are using numerical data. So here statistical analysis is also involved, which is not involved most in cases here. All right. So I am quickly going through this difference because we have already discussed these differences in one of our previous videos. All right. So the third feature for differentiating between quantitative and qualitative research is questions. The questions used for data collection are open-ended ones in qualitative research because we are looking for a detailed description or detailed data. While in quantitative research, the questions used for data collection are close-ended ones, which means yes, no type question, true or false type questions, or maybe you have to write a specific word or a number as asked, right? Then about representation of data. Data is represented in form of notes, recordings, and videotapes. Okay. While in quantitative research, data is represented in the form of numbers and graphs. Okay. About the research design in both the types of research. The research design in qualitative analysis allows some flexibility in certain situational aspects. The questions used for the data collection differs individually and depends upon the response of the participants, which means this is not totally structured. Okay, the questions can vary or the researcher can change questions as and when the individual responds to a particular question. So the research design is flexible when it comes to qualitative research. Under quantitative research, the research design is predetermined or pre-planned. There is a very little scope where you can veer away or or show any flexibility. This is all predetermined and stable from the beginning. The questions used for data collection are structured and same for all participants. While in qualitative research design, it's not strictly structured. For each participant, you can change the question or modify the question depending upon how the person is responding to the questions. While in quantitative research, this flexibility is not allowed and all the participants will be given exactly the same questions. So, this was the difference between quantitative and qualitative research. Next, we have relevance of qualitative research in psychology. This means the importance of qualitative research in psychology. So, qualitative research helps in textual description of experiences of people, which means we are getting a huge amount of textual data about what the people experienced about a phenomenon. It helps in identifying and explaining social norms, religion, roles of gender, and socioeconomic status. Okay, it helps in understanding those behavioral phenomena which cannot be quantified. Anything that cannot be quantified can be studied qualitatively. It helps in collecting data under more natural situations. It also helps in determining those factors which are meaningful and are important to the respondents under study. So these are the importance of qualitative research in psychology. Next, we have ethical guidelines in qualitative research. Ethics is something which is very important irrespective of the type of research you are conducting, be it quantitative or qualitative. Ethical considerations are a must. You should have considered all the ethical aspects of your study even before you start your study. All right. So let's see what are the different ethical guidelines involved. The researcher must show respect and belongingness to the community that is under study. Okay, you should always be respectful of the people that you are conducting your study on. The respondents or your participants, the people who are a part of your research or study, they must be made aware of what is being studied by the researcher. This means you have to maintain the transparency. All right, and this is very important. The participant should know what he is being a part of. The researcher must ensure and maintain the confidentialities. Whatever data should not go out or should will harm the privacy of the individual should be dealt very carefully. The researcher should be aware of the expected risks and benefits, including the psychological and social aspects while performing the research. We have studied about the importance of risk benefit ratio, right? Then finally, the researcher must be aware of sensitive issues and potential conflicts of interest that can arise from the outcome of his study. All right. Finally, we have the mixed approach research method. Let's see what it is. Mixed approach research method involves integrating both qualitative and quantitative research methods within a single study to gain a more comprehensive understanding of a research problem. Alright, so mixed approach means you are using both qualitative and quantitative research methods, which means your study will have the advantages of both qualitative and quantitative research methods. So this approach leverages or uses to its merit or its advantage the strengths of each method, allowing researchers to explore diverse perspectives, uncover relationships, and address complex research questions. All right. Now, it is an integrated method, which means it is using two different methodologies, which is qualitative and quantitative research method, which involves collection of data by both close-ended and open-ended questions. We said we use close-ended questions for quantitative research, right? Yes, no type. And we use open-ended for qualitative methods, where you want detailed description. In mixed approach, we are using both quantitative and qualitative uh, questions or close-ended and open-ended questions. This is the first characteristic of the mixed approach research method. Secondly, it involves a rigorous procedure of collecting and analyzing data through quantitative as well as qualitative research methods. So the data collection also involves data collection and analysis, involves methods that are part of quantitative analysis and also qualitative studies. All right. And this method helps to understand the process, behavior or phenomena from various perspectives, from the perspective of the participant as well as statistically. Then this method also helps to provide an information rich data. Okay, imagine a study which has the statistical data also available and the rich, thick context bound data from the qualitative perspective also. All right, now let's look at the uses of the mixed approach research method. What are the uses? Why we use them? We use them to validate our findings, to prove that whatever outcome we have got is true or correct or applicable. All right, we use this to develop survey instruments. It is used to help in understanding community dynamics, like what is the relationship between the members of a different community, what is the dynamics between them. We also use it to reflect participants' point of view, or what a particular participant thinks about a process or a phenomenon or something that has happened. It collects rich and comprehensive data. This is characteristic of what? Qualitative research method. This rich and comprehensive data. All right. Now these are the uses of mixed approach research method. Finally, we have the limitation of the mixed approach research method. What is the demerit or disadvantage? Firstly, it involves complex evaluations. All the statistical calculations are not always easy. They are very complicated at times. So, since mixed approach research method uses quantitative techniques, it will use statistical analysis also, which is pretty complex evaluations. It requires multiple expertise or experts. Anybody who can know statistics required. Anybody who can analyze the data required. Anybody who can collect data and maintain good relationship with the participants needed. So we require multiple expertise or experts for performing mixed approach research. Finally, it requires a lot of resources and time. All right. So that was all about qualitative research method. Now, let's move on to the previous year questions that has come from this topic. The first question we have from December 2024, it says, discuss the common characteristics of qualitative research and their key elements. We have discussed, right, all the key elements, the three main key elements. And then in the same year, there was another question which said, write short notes on the following in about 150 words each. This is a 5-mark question. And you had to write about characteristics of the mixed approach research method, which we just finished. Then in December 2023, we had this question, write short notes on the following in about 150 words each. Another 5 marks question. And this time they asked about characteristics of the qualitative research. Then in June 2023, again another 5 marks question asking about types of qualitative research. We have finished that also, right? Then in December 2022, we had discussed the key elements and relevance of qualitative research. This was a 6+4 question, which means key elements 6 marks, relevance 4 marks. All right. Then in June 2022, we had this question, discuss the characteristics, uses and limitations of mixed approach research method for 10 marks. Then in December 2021, we had another 5-mark question on mixed approach research design. All right. So that was all about block 2. Unit 5 was the last unit of block 2. So I hope you understood qualitative research method. We have been discussing qualitative and quantitative in a lot of videos, right? So I haven't gone into much detail of most of it. Thank you all for learning with me. If you found the video helpful, make sure you let me know by hitting the like button. Make sure you share the video with your friends too. Subscribe to make sure that you don't miss out on any of the new videos. You can reach me by simply dropping a comment. See you in the next one. Till then, happy learning.